Back on August 2nd, 2012, the flying beast known as the Dragon was released into the game of Clash of Clans, along with the other 9 original troops. In later years, the Dragon went on to have some other troop counterparts like the Inferno Dragon and the Baby Dragon. But in today's video, I'm going to tell you my Dragon's origin story. Back in the days when the Grand Warden had created and released the first 10 troops in the game, a dragon was amongst those troops. The dragon, however, took after the typical dragon stereotype where he flew off to a volcanic mountain and guarded some pile of treasure that he stole. It was just the way that the dragon was born, the same way that the goblins were born greedy, wizards were born arrogant, and barbarians were born stupid. There wasn't anything anyone could do about it. So for the first little while, the village got by without the dragon. Of course, it was a bit of a loss for the village since they were missing one of the most powerful troops in the game, however they were able to get by for the time being. And just like how the dragon had fled the village, so had a rogue group of goblins, who had all rebelled and formed their own little clan known as the Goblin Horde. That Goblin Horde had been making life very difficult for the village by stealing all of their resources and then storing it away in their little villages. They would then have to defend it from the village when they attacked them to steal it back. At first, it was easy for the village to beat the goblins, but over time the goblins' horde got smarter and built bigger and stronger defenses to stop them from being beat. It ended up getting to a point where the villagers could no longer beat the goblin bases, and since the villagers couldn't steal their loot back, the goblins were still able to keep most of their resources and start stealing more and more. Until it got to a point where the goblins took pretty much everything from the village, and being the greedy goblins that they were, what they stole wasn't enough. So they sought after new treasures greater than what they had. And coincidentally, that just so happened to be the dragon's treasure. So the goblins decided to take on the dragon's lair and try and steal his treasures. Despite being extremely greedy, the goblins were not stupid, so they were actually able to create an elaborate plan and steal all of the dragon's resources, without being noticed. And before the dragon even realized what had happened, it was too late. So now that the dragon had nothing left to defend, he returned back home to try and find out what happened to his treasure. When the dragon got there, the village suggested that it was probably the greedy goblins who had stolen his treasure, as that's what they've been doing to them the whole time. Then one of the villagers had an idea, and he suggested that they should both team up and help each other out to get both of their loot and treasures back. The dragon agreed, and together they were finally able to take down the goblin horde's bases, all the way up to their Goblin King's lair. And together, once they vanquished the Goblin King, they returned back to the village with all of their lost loot and treasures. They made a pretty good team together, so the villagers offered to help protect the dragon's treasure and he could help defend their loot. So the dragon thought about it and then agreed to it, since having 2 groups of people defend something is always better than just one. So the dragon was now a valuable part of the village, helping defend the village from attacks and even helping them steal some loot from other villages. However, part of being on a full-time guard shift for the loot, the dragon was never able to join the Clash Royale arena battles as he was already too occupied defending the treasures. However, his 2 dragon counterparts were able to take his place in the arena instead. And how the Inferno Dragon and Baby Dragon made it to the Clash world is an entirely different story for another time. Welcome back to part 2 of the dragon's origin story. This time taking a look at the dragon's 2 mini counterparts, the Baby Dragon and the Inferno Dragon. The Inferno Dragon, who carries a large barrel full of lava on his back, acts as a traveling single targeting inferno and is exclusive to Clash Royale only. The Baby Dragon, however, is in all 3 parts of the Clash universe, but for a reason to be explained later, he only rages when he's alone in the builder base and in our regular home base. However, when he's alone in the Royal Arena, he doesn't have the same rage effect. So why is that? Well, find out in the Baby Dragon and the Inferno Dragon's origin story. Not long after the village unlocked the dragon at Town Hall 8, with the help of the dragon, they made very quick progress and were ready to upgrade to Town Hall 9. The dragon was a huge help, leading most of their most important attacks, especially in wars, where the dragon was able to successfully bring home the 3-star most of the time. And by some very weird coincidence, once the Town Hall finished upgrading to Town Hall 9, the dragon laid 2 eggs. Everyone was shocked, including the dragon, who had no idea where those came from. But nonetheless, everyone knew what this meant. There were going to be some new baby dragons, and knowing that they were capable of growing to become as powerful as the regular dragon, they knew that they had to take extremely good care of them. So they took the eggs and laid them down next to the town hall, which was supposed to be the most secure building in the village. Unfortunately, the next day, a group of really greedy goblins stole the eggs in hopes that they would be able to sell it for a lot of gold or other resources. And when the dragon found out that his eggs had been stolen, he was infuriated and vowed to find whoever took them and that he would set them on fire. And when the goblins found out that the dragon had put them on his hit list, they started to freak out. They knew they had to get rid of the egg or else the dragon would burn them alive. But they also knew that they couldn't just return it, otherwise the whole village would know that they took it. So they ended up deciding to get rid of it instead. The goblins knew that if they hid it on the island, that the dragon would eventually find it and most likely trace it back to them. So they had to hide it somewhere much further away. So while the goblins were searching for a place to hide the eggs, they came across the master builder who was visiting the home village. He had just finished gearing up one of the archer towers and was about to head back. And right then the goblins knew what they had to do. So a few goblins went to quickly distract the master builder by doing some weirdly well-rehearsed dance, while the rest of the goblins went to go hide the 2 eggs in his tiny little rowboat. And to be completely honest, they did an absolutely awful job hiding the eggs, as they weren't covered by anything and they were sort of sticking out of the tiny boat. But luckily, the master builder was so tired and exhausted from working 70 hours straight that he didn't notice the 2 eggs, and instead, as soon as he got into the boat, he fell right asleep. And he didn't wake up until he arrived back at his night village. And when he did wake up, he finally noticed the 2 eggs in his towboat. The first thing he thought was, how the heck did these get here? And after that, he realized that they must have come from the home village and he should bring them back right away. But for some really weird reason, there was absolutely no way for the master builder to get back to the home village, unless there was a defense to be geared up. And since he just came back from gearing up the archer tower, there were no other defenses to be geared up for a long time. So for the time being, the master builder was stuck in the night village with his 2 eggs. And a few days later, both of the eggs hatched, where 2 tiny baby dragons popped out. Both of these dragons were able to fire these tiny little fireballs, but they didn't have any rage ability or anything. At least, not yet. Find out why the baby dragon rages in Clash of Clans regular base and in the builder base, but not in Clash Royale. And also find out how the baby dragon became the inferno dragon in the next story. Once the village upgraded to Town Hall 9, by coincidence the dragon laid 2 eggs. While waiting for them to hatch, a group of goblins stole the eggs, but then had to get rid of them to avoid being killed by the dragon. They hid them in the master builder's towboat, and without knowing, he took them back to his night village. Then, a few days later, the eggs hatched and 2 baby dragons emerged, but they didn't have their rage effect yet. So find out in today's story how the baby dragon got his special ability, and how the inferno dragon was created for the Clash Royale arena.
All the pain.
While the master builder was at the home village, the builder had shown him one of his new defenses that he was working on and planning on releasing for the next town hall, which was Town Hall 10. He had called it the Inferno Tower. And when the master builder saw this, he was actually really impressed. And rather than just being happy and proud of the builder, the master builder was determined to take his creation and make it even better. After all, he had to live up to his name of master builder. So when the baby dragons were born, the master builder had an idea that could make the Inferno Tower even better. Since in the builder's design and prototype, the Inferno Tower was just like any other defense, a stationary defense that could only target within a certain range. The master builder thought to himself, but what if I could transfer the Inferno Tower's powers to a living being, to make a troop that could be just as deadly as the Inferno Tower, but wasn't restricted to a certain distance or spot. So with this new idea, the master builder thought that a flying mini dragon would be a perfect fit. And to make the Super Inferno Tower troop, he only needed 1 baby dragon. So he brought both baby dragons to his lab, and at random he chose one of the baby dragons to turn into his new Super Inferno. And once he had the baby dragon, he took him to the only place that he knew he could get lava from, P.E.K.K.A.'s playhouse. So the baby dragon and the master builder headed over to the Clash Royale arenas and trekked their way all the way up the side of the volcano. Once they arrived at the top, the master builder filled a wooden barrel up with molten hot lava. And in case some of you guys are skeptical about how this wood is being able to contain all the heat from the lava, well, the barrel isn't just made from any type of wood. It's actually made out of the same wood used to make the master builder's battle machine. It's wood that was blessed with magic from the wizards to make it indestructible and immune to all sorts of heat. So that's also why that when the battle machine summons lightning, it doesn't set the battle machine on fire. It also holds the power of the electricity inside of the hammer. So if this works properly, the barrel should be able to hold the heat of the lava inside the barrel, so that it doesn't cool off and become molten rock. But anyways, back to the mountain. The master builder finished filling the barrel with the lava, and now the next step was to find a way to connect the barrel with the baby dragon's fire supply. So the Master Builder and the Baby Dragon traveled all the way back to the builder base, and then the Master Builder crafted a special helmet with a hose type device that would connect the helmet and the barrel. Then the Baby Dragon put the special helmet on, and the Master Builder fastened the barrel and hose to the Baby Dragon's back. The Master Builder then took a step back and watches the Baby Dragon tested out his new armor. The Baby Dragon was now able to draw lava from the barrel, and then the lava would be released in the mouthpiece of the helmet, where the dragon would be able to fire a constant stream of lava out at his enemies. And the longer he stayed focused on an enemy, the more the lava would burn them. The Master Builder was incredibly proud of himself, and the Baby Dragon, or as he was now known, the Inferno Dragon, was pretty happy about his new powers as well. And not only were these two happy, the other Baby Dragon was just as happy to be able to see his baby brother again. And for a few days, everything was all good, where the two brother dragons were able to play around and destroy enemies for fun. But then, nothing ever lasts forever, so a few days later, the Inferno Dragon got really sick, to the point where he almost didn't have enough energy to fly anymore. The Master Builder quickly realized the problem. The Inferno Dragon's barrel of lava was running extremely low on lava, and it looked like the Inferno Dragon was becoming very reliant on the lava to stay alive, as it was now part of him. So the Master Builder immediately took him back to the P.E.K.K.A.'s playhouse, and then the other Baby Dragon came around with them just to make sure his brother was okay. And when they finally got there, after the long journey, the Master Builder realized that he wasn't going to be able to make this incredibly long trip every few days just to refill the lava. So he figured he'd have to leave the Inferno Dragon at the Clash Royale arena so that he could stay close to the P.E.K.K.A.'s playhouse at all times. And so he did. He left the Inferno Dragon there, and he headed back to the builder base, and things went back to normal. As for the Baby Dragon, he couldn't decide where he wanted to go. Of course, he wanted to stay with his brother and go to the Clash Royale arena, but he also didn't want to leave the Master Builder since he was almost like a parent to him. And then he also really wanted to go meet his real parent, the dragon, back at the home village. And he couldn't really decide which one he wanted to do, but thanks to the clone spell, he didn't have to choose. He was able to go to all three places at once. But his connection with his brother was so strong that whenever he was alone in the builder base or Clash village, he would burst out into a rage until another troop joined him in the air. And at the Clash Royale arena, he never had to rage, since he always knew that his brother would be somewhere close by. And that there is the full story of the dragon, the Baby Dragon, and then the Inferno Dragon. The newest troop in Clash of Clans, or rather should I say, the newest beast inside of Clash of Clans, is a bigger, stronger, and more powerful version of the already popular dragon troop. The new Mega Dragon, known as the ELECTRO Dragon, has some very unique abilities that have never before been seen inside of Clash of Clans. The ELECTRO Dragon's attack bounces from building to building for some reason, but it does less and less damage per building it hits. He also has more health than the regular dragon and does considerably more damage, but perhaps the most unique part about the ELECTRO Dragon is the fact that when he dies, he drops a lightning storm wherever he dies, similar to the dropping of a lightning spell. As my welcoming for the brand new troop at Town Hall 12, here is my story on how the ELECTRO Dragon was brought into the world of Clash. Not too long ago, in a village not too far away, all the villagers and troops were all getting excited and ready to celebrate in anticipation for the revealing of the brand new upgraded town hall that the builder had been working on for the past 15 days. The entire village was getting in on the celebrations, and troops were just hopping from one dance party to the next. And these dance parties were being held literally everywhere, from inside the town hall, in a goblin hut, in the clan castle, and even in the middle of a battlefield. The parties were off the hook, and every troop was having the time of their lives. And since the village had been maxed for a long time and were just waiting for something new to upgrade, the village was extra excited for some new things to do. But since they were maxed out, none of the troops or other builders had anything to do for those 15 days during the upgrade. So to kill time, they partied every day. Everyone was having a great time, while everyone, except for one troop, the dragon. Unfortunately, the dragon was just too big and couldn't fit inside of any of these parties inside the town hall or clan castles, and when he tried dancing outside with the Teslas, his wings kept flying all over the place and hitting things. So the dragon had to sit out the celebrations for all 15 days. During the time that everyone was partying and dancing, the dragon went to go raid some bases to help him kill some time. Even though the village was already full on resources, he still went ahead and started attacking bases. So during one of his raids, since it wasn't worth anything, the attack was sort of careless in a way. And normally when doing a zap, quake, drag attack, usually the lightning spells and earthquakes are deployed before the dragons. But since it was such a careless attack, this time the dragons were deployed first. And then once the chief realized that he forgot the lightning spells, he quickly dropped them on top of the air defense, and at this point in the raid, the dragons were already on top of their air defenses as well, and then they were in the process of taking them out. The first lightning spell hit the ground and a bunch of lightning bolts struck all around the dragon. Slightly startled by this, the dragon looked up to see all the lightning bolts smashing all around him, and as he was looking up, the second bottle of lightning spell was dropped from the sky. And awestruck at what the dragon was seeing, he opened his mouth in awe, and by some crazy chance, the bottle of lightning spell dropped right into the dragon's mouth. And when the bottle of lightning entered the dragon, the bottle didn't break completely. However, there was a slight crack in the bottle where tiny bits of lightning spell were seeping out of it. But overall, the lightning bolt stayed safe inside of the dragon and inside of the bottle. The dragon was a little bit shook up by this, but he tried to carry on in the battle. So he moved on to his next target and opened his mouth to spew some burning hot flames. However, when he blew out, instead of fire, a strong bolt of lightning came exploding out of his mouth. The dragon immediately shut his mouth and looked surprised as hell at what just happened. And all the other dragons noticed too. They all came over, despite still being in the middle of an attack, to check out what just happened. Then after being urged on by the rest of the army, the new electric dragon opened his mouth again and spat out a bolt of lightning. This time the bolt of lightning hit its target, but then bounced off that building and then hit the building right behind it. But it didn't stop there. It then bounced off that building and hit the one right beside it. And then it did the same thing to that building again. No one knew what was happening, but it would be later explained to them by the genius wizards that apparently all the buildings that the builder has ever constructed, they all contain a type of metal that is an excellent conductor of electricity. So when one building is hit with such a strong surge of electricity, if the building around it are close enough, they will absorb the shock as well. However, since the buildings already absorbed some of that initial electricity, the damage it does will be slightly less to the next few buildings. Anyways, after the dragons quickly took care of the rest of the base, they all returned home. And by the time they got to their village, they noticed that the dragon that ate the lightning spell bottle had changed appearances. His red skin or scales had turned into a bright blue color that radiated electricity. Furthermore, his jaw had changed slightly, where it changed into a more solid metallic-like material that could better conduct the electricity that came flying out of the dragon's mouth. It seemed that the leaking bottle of lightning spell was causing the dragon to mutate and change his appearance, and so when the dragons all finally got back to the village, the builder was just finishing up the town hall upgrade to Town Hall 12. And like always, once a new town hall is achieved, the entire village and troops all get hard to work farming up resources and upgrading buildings. So in the next battle, the Electro Dragon was brought into battle. However, this time unfortunately, he was taken out by an air defense and a seeking air mine. And when the dragon turned into Elixir, the lightning spell that was still in his stomach fell to the ground and broke, releasing the entirety of the lightning spell to wreak havoc where it landed. And that there pretty much covers all the Electro Dragon's unique abilities. So there is the story on how the dragon became the Electro Dragon. The strongest, the most powerful, and the most glamorous dragon in all of Clash. Presenting the Golden Dragon. Although not an actual playable troop inside of Clash of Clans or Clash Royale, the Golden Dragon is still very much a big part of the Clash world. Inside of Clash of Clans, the Golden Dragon defends the last and most important goblin base in the campaign. And in Clash Royale, well, the Golden Dragon is the arena. So where did this beast of a troop come from? And how did it become part of the legendary arena and defender of the final goblin base? Find out all of that inside of the Golden Dragon's origin story. The Golden Dragon's origin story starts back at the beginning of Clash. Before the dragon was gold, he was just a regular old dragon. In fact, he was actually the first ever dragon to roam the Clash world. He was considered to be the father of all dragons, and he was by far the biggest and most powerful dragon to ever fly the Clash skies. The dragon was so strong and powerful that the village chief used him to destroy every single base. The village chief wouldn't even strategize. He would just send in the dragon and he would do the rest of the work on his own. He was so powerful that he would burn every village to the ground with ease, and the dragon would help the chief bring home loads and loads of loot each raid. The dragon would bring it back to the Clash of Clans village, and then watch as the chief spent the loot on upgrading buildings and buying other random things around the village. The dragon realized that he was doing literally all of the work to get this loot, while the chief just sat back and cheered him on, and then went ahead and spent all of the money that he technically earned. So he figured that he could just raid these bases and keep all the loot for himself, if he really wanted to. But nonetheless, the dragon continued on as things were. Later that day, the dragon oversaw the village chief spending all of their last raid earnings on buying some stupid flag with an arrow on it. The dragon did all of that work just so that the chief could buy some stupid flag that told him which way up was. And that was finally it. The dragon had finally had enough of this, and decided that it was time he left the chief and went out on his own. He didn't need him for anything, and this way he could at least keep all the loot for himself. The dragon took off and flew to a remote place deep inside the forest. The dragon sat down and made a little lair for himself, and during the next few days, the dragon then set off to go raid numerous villages all on his own. As per usual, he absolutely decimated every base he attacked, except this time he got to keep all of the loot and treasures that he got for winning the battles. He took these piles of treasures back to the new lair and laid them all down. The dragon continued for many days where he would raid bases and steal their treasures and loot. Eventually, the dragon also became greedy and loot hungry. He never had any use for the treasures he found, but yet he still wanted it all. One day, the dragon was raiding a base, and when he came back to his lair, he found a group of greedy green goblins pillaging through his treasures. The dragon flew down and landed right over the group of goblins. The dragon growled aggressively at the goblins, who all turned around and saw the massive fire-breathing dragon hovering over them. They all dropped what they were holding and began cowering away. The dragon was about to roast them with fire, but then a thought occurred to him. The dragon put out the fire that was brewing in his chest and rather offered the goblins a deal. He said that either he could roast them all right now, or they could use those sneaky stealing skills to steal loot for him instead of from him. This decision was an obvious no-brainer, and the goblins agreed to work for the dragon. The goblins then spent the next few weeks stealing carts and carts full of gold for the dragon. The dragon didn't even have to do anything anymore. He could just sit back and do nothing while the goblins did all of the work. The dragon even commanded the goblins to upgrade his lair by carving his head into the stone and to create a little village around him to help protect. The dragon had so much gold that he felt like a king. In fact, even though there was one goblin who was in charge of most of the other rogue goblins, the dragon was the true king of the goblins. The dragon felt so powerful and had so many treasures that he ordered the goblins to melt some gold so that the dragon himself could bathe in it. The goblins did as they were instructed, and then the gold was used to coat the dragon's scales. The goblins worked tirelessly until the entire dragon was covered in gold. Now, not only was the dragon the most powerful troop in the lands, it was also the most expensive. The dragon had life pretty good. He just sat back and relaxed while he had his goblin army do all of the raiding for him. And after years and years of this, the goblins went through numerous numbers of generations, and their numbers grew exponentially. They began expanding their living spaces into separate camps, and as their operations grew, the village chiefs started to take notice. Their bases were constantly being stolen from, and so they had to do something about it. So one by one, they started to fight back and take back some of the goblin outposts, until finally they could work their way up to the golden dragon's lair and take him out once and for all. Meanwhile, the village chiefs are fighting their way through the other goblin outposts. The golden dragon was relaxing away inside of his dragon lair, which is much roomier, might I add, on the inside than it appears to be on the outside. Inside the lair, the kings from the Clash Royale, who have fortunes and fortunes of loot, offered to pay the dragon handsomely in exchange for allowing them to hold their Clash Royale battles inside of his lair. The golden dragon agreed to this as he loved treasure and was also very bored from doing nothing every day, and it gave him a chance to spectate each and every battle. The reason the kings wanted to battle inside of a deadly dragon's lair is still unknown. However, the rumor is that they wanted to do it to boost the power of the other dragons in their decks, like the Electro Dragon, Baby Dragon, and the Inferno Dragon. But I guess we may never know the true reason. All we know is that they are there, battling inside the lair of the most deadly dragon to have ever lived. And that there is the origin story of the Golden Dragon, and explains how the Golden Dragon came to be a part of the Clash of Clans Goblin campaign, and the new Dragon's Lair arena inside of Clash Royale. The baby dragon has recently been destroyed and came back as not only one, but two skeleton dragons. So what happened to everyone's favorite air splasher, and how did it become the brand new skeleton dragons? Find out all of that inside of the Skeleton Dragon's origin story. The story of the Skeleton Dragons all start in the Clash Royale stadium inside of the Royal Arena, where the baby dragon was absolutely running everyone's show. The king was playing with the baby dragon in just about every single one of his decks. He would use him in the Splasher deck, a Golem beatdown deck, and even miscellaneous decks like the Giant and Hog Rider. The baby dragon was the star of the show and by far the king's favorite card. But then one day, the king finally unlocked a brand new legendary card, which just so happened to be an Inferno Dragon that he got from a legendary chest. Once the king unlocked the Inferno Dragon, the baby dragon started to get a little bit worried, but he still knew that he would never get replaced by him, and knew that there would always be a spot for him inside of the king's deck. So the baby dragon wasn't very threatened by the Inferno Dragon. The king ended up removing some other troop from his deck and putting the baby dragon and the Inferno Dragon inside of the same deck. And during the next few battles, the king started to use the Inferno Dragon and immediately fell in love with it. The king even then started slowly to play the baby dragon less and less, just so that he could play the Inferno Dragon more and more. It finally got to the point where he ended up completely removing the baby dragon from his deck and strictly used the Inferno Dragon. The baby dragon was mortified by this and thought this was BS. The only reason the Inferno Dragon was better than him was because he had some sort of special attachment that he had on his back. If he got rid of that attachment, he would definitely suck. Or if the baby dragon had some special attachment like that, he would be 10 times better than the Inferno Dragon. And thinking of that, a light bulb went off in the baby dragon's head. He thought, wait, why don't I just get my own special attachment? And so just like that, the baby dragon went to the Clash of Clans builder and asked him to make him some sort of special attachment that would make him extra powerful, just like the Inferno Dragon. The builder agreed to help, but warned him that he had no experience doing any of this, but he could definitely give it a try. The baby dragon said that was totally fine because he was so desperate for this little power booster that he would be willing to risk it. So together, the builder and the baby dragon brainstormed some ideas of what they could do to make the baby dragon more powerful. So finally they came to the idea that they can make a barrel attachment similar to the Inferno dragons and place it on the baby dragon's back just like the Inferno dragon. And then I could provide the baby dragon with a non-stop stream of rage spell to help make it even more powerful. So basically they would fill the barrel with rage spell. They both really liked this idea, and so the builder got right to work. The builder crafted the backpack barrel and then was getting ready to fill it all up with a rage spell. So the baby dragon put the backpack thing on, and the builder went to go get some of the rage spell. As the builder was beginning to pour the rage spell into the barrel, the baby dragon accidentally sneezed, as he normally did. This caused the builder to back up and hit the shelf that was holding all of the other potions. The shelf shook, and some of the potions began falling off the shelves. A clone spell fell directly into the baby dragon's open backpack, along with a lightning spell and an earthquake spell, while the rest of the spells missed and hit the ground. The lightning spell and clone spell and earthquake spell all mixed with the rage spell in the barrel and caused a massive explosion. The blow ended up knocking the builder back and ended up destroying the baby dragon completely. The builder felt super awful that this partially was his fault, and so he immediately went out and found the witch. He begged her to bring the baby dragon back from the dead, and the witch agreed to since the builder recently upgraded her barracks for her. So the witch went over to where the baby dragon exploded and began working her magic. She then raised the dead, but instead of having one baby dragon rise, 2 half-sized ones came up instead. It appeared that when the spells mixed together, the clone spell split the baby dragon into 2. And then it mixed with these other spells. The baby dragon also didn't look the same way they used to, in the sense that, well, they were now skeletons. They were half the size, so that meant they had half the health and also did half the damage of what they did before. The skeleton dragons looked at each other and at first were super upset that instead of getting stronger, they became half as powerful. But later they would find out that when they went back to the Clash Royale arena, they were now able to outnumber most troops, and now they could easily outperform the Inferno Dragon, at least in a one-on-one situation. So it all ended up working out for the best. And instead of the Clash Royale arena, they are just starting to get their feet wet as they're being experimented in tons of other King's decks. And that there is the story of the Skeleton Dragons and how they were brought into the world of Clash. I really hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, drop a like on the video and make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on. My next story is going to be of the Musketeer, and I've also got a Brawl Stars story coming out very soon after that, so definitely make sure you guys subscribe and turn on notifications. And also, in the meantime, why don't you guys go ahead and check out one of my favorite story videos that I've done in a long time. It's called the Giant Skeleton story. I'll have it linked down below and at the end of the video so you guys can check that out. And also comment down below and let me know what kind of story you guys would like to see next. Anyways, that's going to be it from me. I will see you guys all in the next video.